Adrian, it is a fucking pleasure to be on the Nursing Uncensored podcast this morning.
It is a fucking pleasure to have you on the Nursing Uncensored podcast this morning. All right.
All right, your show. Let's do it.
All right. Welcome to Nursing Uncensored. I'm actually really excited today. Normally I say, I've got a great show. Really, this is going to be a fun one. I am bringing you today Robert P. Harris. He's got a lot of letters after his name and a lot of interesting things to say. So let's bring him in. Robert, hello.
Well, hello, Adrian. How are we doing?
Fantastic. Glad to see you here today.
I've been a fan for quite a long time, and if there's anybody who brings it down to the trenches, it's you. I mean, you really just have this great voice that people can. I mean, you're going to hear me open up in ways that I haven't yet. So I got all these little Post-it notes of don't let her drag you into this awesome topic. Don't let her bring that. I'm like, I'm going to be a good boy. I'm not.
No dragging, gentle leading.
I'm not going to be a good boy. So we could just,
Let's just, the gloves are off. Let's talk about it. So I first want to, people are going to be, they're already going to know what they're coming into because the title's going to give some away. But I love this term, you are a flight knight. You are a flight nurse. You are one of those magical unicorn nurses that we don't know much about, but everybody thinks is really badass. And I do have to say this before I let you introduce yourself. When I am walking through the hospital, once in a while, because, I work night shift, once in a while, I see a nurse in a flight suit. I'm getting fucking goosebumps just thinking about it. The fucking flight suits not only are important in your safety, protection, and functioning at work, but they are fucking hot as hell. I'm sorry. Flight suits, damn. So sorry to lead you in that way, but I think they're superheroes. And so I would love for you to then just introduce yourself, because I could gush about the flight nurse or persona.
Well, my goodness, what shades of red am I turning? Thank you. And get me a 44 tall, give me a 42 tall, 44 regular, depending upon the time of year. No, man, we're rocking that flight suit. It is a pretty cool statement. And, I know that when I was starting out as an ER nurse, every time I would see anybody in anything resembling a flight suit walk by, I would just mug them and just, who are you? What do you do? Give me something.
Do you love your job? How do I get there?
Oh my goodness. That's all I wanted. And I had a few mentors along the way. And of course, I should mention my father's a career paramedic, career flight paramedic, paramedic educator. So I grew up in an ambulance station. I never really had a chance. This was always going to be what I did. But I tell everyone, if you are interested in this and you have the flight suit heart thumper, swooning mentality, approach us. Talk to us. I have a stack of cards in my pocket that I pass out to anybody who might be the slightest bit interested. And I say, call me, email me. All my information is available online. We'll get to that later. But I'm a servant. I'm here to help. It's not easy to get where we've gotten, me or Adrian, but we could talk about it. We could talk about it, and we need to be willing to talk about it. Otherwise, we're just being a jerk. Why would we?
Yeah, there's like a brotherhood, a sisterhood, I guess, among, because, even though I don't do the same kind of things you do, I know how dedicated I feel about my profession. And reading your, the Flight Nurse Bible, the book that you have written, which we're going to talk about that a lot. But yeah. Please do show it off. But this book taught me things, which we'll get into, some things which actually are helpful in my practice at the bedside in a hospital that's not moving. So I already have learned quite a bit. So with that said, will you just briefly talk about your history? Well, you started to, and then I interrupted. So Dad's a career-long paramedic, flight paramedic. And that's so it's in your DNA, basically.
Absolutely. No, I grew up realizing there was a certain group of people out there that have this ability to be the closest version of superhero that we know. And that was my father growing up. Whenever there was a problem, my dad had the solution. People went to my father for the answer. You're at a barbecue and, somebody burned themselves. Somebody passed out. Grandma took a dive. It was always get my father. And so I grew up knowing there was this group of people out there that were just awesome. And so I idolized him. And then I joined the Navy and was a corpsman. Joined the Navy at 17, became a corpsman, and had a lot of adventures there. Won't focus on that today, but when I was a corpsman, I discovered they let us challenge for the LVN license, which is incredibly generous offer that they give us, because that's a whole year-long program in and of itself. And so I took advantage of that. It was by no means easy. I had to study. And I tell people, it's funny. I had this, I don't like to call myself a dinosaur, but I dropped out of high school and joined the Navy post 9/11 and to become a corpsman. And that's a complicated process. But anyway, when I did the LVN thing, I had a book and a disc that I purchased with thousands of questions. And then I went and cleared out the shelf at Barnes & Noble the week before, because there was no like Amazon or YouTube then. Yeah, so I cleared out the shelf at Barnes & Noble to get these every study guide I could. Yeah. And then, I passed it. Thank goodness. I passed it on the first go around. Whoo! And then I went and returned everything to Barnes & Noble. I don't, they won't mind. They're publishing my book currently, so they can stack. They're happy with that. It's fine. Yeah. Just give me oh my God, I'm getting you sued kind of thing. It's all right.
I mean, if they email me, I'm going to send them to you.
Oh yeah. You and everyone else. I have a whole special account for my favorite hate mail. I love it. I love it. No. But that was amazing. And there's so many corpsmen. If there's corpsmen listening, or if you're a nurse now and you were a corpsman, reach out to other corpsmen. That's a Navy medic, by the way, for those of you playing the home game, as Robin Williams would have said.
Yeah. It's important.
Take advantage of that, because it sets you up not just to leave the military with a gainful source of income, but it shaves off so many parts of nursing school. It sets you up for an LVN to RN transition, which, as I've listened to your story, I've listened to all the struggles and stripes you've gone through to become an RN. Like, I almost was like this. I almost shed a tear for you. And I'm like, this poor lady went through hell to get. Oh, and by the way, I had a special intro set up that I never got to do.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let it rip.
All right, let's do it. I was like, Adrianne, it is a fucking pleasure to be on the Nursing Uncensored podcast this morning.
It is a fucking pleasure to have you on the Nursing Uncensored podcast this morning. I'm already having a good time.
I thought about that. Like when we first decided to do this, I'm like, that's going to be my intro. And then we got excited and I forgot. So, but I had to go back.
I will cut that out and I will plop it at the beginning of the show.
I hope so.
Everybody gets to hear it.
I hope so.
But I know actually a few corpsmen who have become nurses. I don't know. I'm in Iowa, so I don't know if my state still allows the challenge. But like, for example.
It's a government
thing. It's a government thing. Okay, so that's excellent. That's good to know, because I do know a few people that have done that, because there are some highly, highly competent and intelligent and corpsmen. And so if you're able to just get those few bedside skills that maybe you haven't picked up, then I see no reason that shouldn't be another funnel into the profession.
Well, there's no doubt I was a fish out of water. I mean, everything as a corpsman, you have an unlimited scope of practice. You can literally do any form. Like, I've been trained on appendectomies. I mean,
right. You can probably insert chest tubes, that's
standard.
That's basic
protocol.
Yeah.
I mean, it's corpsman experience is ridiculous, but it's a lot of people are too either not humble enough, or they just don't think far enough ahead to put it. All you have to do is fill out a form. You do your live scan fingerprints on the, like when they take Will Smith's, when they fry off his fingertips, you do that thing, submit it to the state, and they write you a letter saying, oh, he's good to go. or he or she is good to go.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. And I studied like hell, and I passed the thing, and that set me up for all sorts of great success. And then what I love about you is you went ADN first and then BSN after. Yes, do that.
It helped me. I would not have been able to pay for a BSN. I was a non-traditional student, didn't have family financial contribution, which is fine. My mom's damn near retirement age. Yeah, I get it. Like, that's the fastest way to get your feet on the ground in the patient care realm, and then you can study. My RN to BSN was cake compared to nursing school. So yeah, it's true, and you preach about that very, very vocally in your book. Just get in, and then you can figure out where you're going from there.
Absolutely, it's your nursing career is your life. It is your bread and butter, and
Mm-hmm.
All right, we made an agreement. I talk with my hands because I'm Italian.
Okay,
and
just let it
we
go.
Said ahead
let it go.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Where were we?
We were talking about, like, just you passed, get in the career, get your foot in the door.
Start the clock. It's all about you're going to be a new grad for 1 year no matter what. So I don't care who you were. If Captain America wanted to become an RN after he passes NCLEX, for the first 12 months, Captain America is a new grad.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to take whatever job Captain America or what's the female equivalent? I'm out here in California. I'm trying to be as gender everything as possible. You're
good. I have no idea.
Wonder Woman. I don't know. We'll go with Wonder Woman.
Sure. Let's go. She's awesome. Let's go. Sure.
Marvel, DC. Who cares? Anyway, I'm getting you sued by so many people on this podcast. I love it.
I'm ready for it. I'm ready.
Okay. Yeah, screw them. They got billions. Anyway, it's all about starting the clock on the ADN. ADN is the goal. You're going to show up at a 4-year school, and they're going to waste your time. They're going to take your money, and you're going to become an indentured servant no matter what you do. That's just college. I get it. And hopefully the future will remedy that. I was of the benefit of having the GI Bill at my disposal, so it made me kind of cocky, and it just made me able to do what I wanted. So I went to a pay-to-play. There's point system schools and pay-to-play schools. I wrote the check and went to the 22-month ADN program. Knocked that out of the park. I mean, hardly. I slept in my car. I was working full-time nights in ERs and LVN. Yeah. It was brutal. I got home for a shower maybe 2 times a week. Relationships were impossible. Pets were impossible. I just literally lived out of a very
But it's a finite amount of time, and it gets you where you want to be.
There's nothing else in the professional community. I say this to it depends on the state you live in. Sometimes paramedics get paid very well, and they have amazing protocols, and it's a great way to go with your life. Otherwise, you're going to get buried. And quite often, I live in San Diego, which is a fire town, and it needs to be because it burns down every couple of years. And we're actually in the middle of that right now. Not to be topical. I don't know when you're airing this.
Yeah, no. Absolutely.
As we speak.
It's an ongoing problem in California.
Well, we don't have a water source.
No,
I mean, it's one of the craziest things. You and I could have a whole separate podcast on politics, and hope we do sometime.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever somebody who has a high intellect, he might be egotistical, but somebody who has a high intellect can spot someone with a high intellect from a mile away. And that's why I reached out to you and said, I need to talk to this woman.
Thank you.
So we should do a political podcast separate from nursing, but we're talking about nursing right now.
Yeah.
And so get involved, get the ADN started as soon as you possibly can, because it starts the clock.
It does.
And then go ahead.
I would even dare to say, if you're, get even into the CNA positions. I was a CNA for 11 years, and the amount of shit that taught me to do that I didn't even have to worry about in nursing school. Like, I didn't have to worry about the super basic nursing cares, the bed baths, the ambulating, the blood sugar checks, the dealing with naked, weird people. Like, I already figured that out. So when I got when I got into nursing school, I got to focus on nursing. So, but the message is there, like, get started.
Absolutely. And also, if I can make a quick point, that this is Nursing Uncensored, right? I'm supposed to be able to say what I want?
Oh,
okay.
Yes.
Nursing, no names, no references. I did nursing school with one hand on the wheel. I mean, working full-time nights, showing up half awake. I was, yeah. Oh, test time. I have a very unorthodox philosophy on college, and it's called 74 and you get one more. And why? Because 74 is where a C turns into a C minus. So below that, you have to repeat the course. Don't get me wrong, I'm a B student. I appreciate education as much as the next person. And we're going to get into certifications, and I'm going to prove my worth as a human being to you people who are now thinking, man, this guy's a total douche. No, I'm not. I promise. I promise.
Can back it up. You have, I'll just drop this in here. You have 7 certifications, and these are not, like certification. And I don't even want to make fun of something. I don't even want to pick something because I'm already. Let's not. Let's not. But I mean, these are some, like, these were certifications that as I'm reading them, I had to think about it for a second. And I like, we've got the trauma care registered nurse. Is that what the TCR?
Well, you know what? Let's do the list.
Let's go through because this is attainable. This is attainable.
So attainable. And just to tell another quick anecdote, and stories like this are going to get me hung off a spire of some hospital somewhere. Okay. This is hardly fair to lay down as a baseline because I was a corpsman for 5 years. I was an LVN for 4 years. Most of that I was in nursing school. 2 of that I was in nursing school. The rest I was walking around the world figuring out my life post-military. But anyway, whatever. And then I became an RN. There's the Board of Certification for Emergency Nurses. That is the BCEN, and they offer the first 5 certifications that are displayed. And I saw in their bylaws and their recommendations online where it says 2 years, 3 years required to do this. Recommendation. So I have a very insulting, but not insulting, inspiring, and yet people want to just, when I say this out loud. Okay, so bear in mind, this isn't fair or expected of the standard RN because I was a corpsman, I was an LVN, I've been in the field since I was a teenager. I had my CEN, my Certified in Emergency Nursing certification, 90 days after I took NCLEX. That is obscene. And nurses want to just reach across the room and punch me when I say stuff like that. Because what are you doing? Oh my goodness. Well, I'm trying to set a new standard for what people can become as fast as they want to become. But here's where it gets funny. The rest of the certs, I got kind of cocky and I was like, okay, boom, I got this in the bag. So then I went and took the flight certification exam. Bombed it. I mean, hilariously, ridiculously bombed it. And
did you know you were bombing as you were taking it?
Oh my gosh, yes. I couldn't even. It might as well have been written in some foreign language. It might as well have been in ancient runes. I didn't know what I was looking at.
I have no idea.
I was in so far over my head, which all of a sudden scared me to a level of passion that I realized my entire life my father has been at. That I just never knew the depths of my father's wisdom as a flight paramedic. And so I long story short, I launched on this crazy, almost self-flagellating process of taking every exam I could as soon as I could and as many times as I could. And I failed and I failed and I failed and I failed. And then but every time I was improving. And then I got to a point where within a 6-week stretch, boom, got the CFRN. That's a Certified Flight Registered Nurse. CTRN, 2 weeks later, Certified Transport Registered Nurse. A little redundant. Not to be confused with the TCRN, which I got later because it didn't exist at the time. That's a Trauma Certified Nurse. But Then in that third row, I got the arguably next to my CFRN, which is my pride and joy.
Yes.
The CCRN, I passed that one, which if you know anything about nursing, the CCRN is the one when you walk into an ICU and there's 200 names and plaques on walls of the most badass RNs you've ever seen. That's what the CCRN is.
Yep.
And I passed that one. Then I was like, okay, let's do this. And because I wanted to fly, and to fly, you have to have been an RN or a paramedic for 3 calendar years. So the second I NCLEX passed, I was like 12, 24, 36 months of hard work ahead of me. So I went ahead just to beef up the resume, and I said, okay, at 36 months, I need to be the baddest. I know it's uncensored, but I just don't I can't do it like Samuel L. Jackson.
You want to be the baddest motherfucker in the room.
Oh, yes, I do. If you said it first, I will. If you don't show up at the interview being the baddest motherfucker in the room, I love this. This is so fun. Where else do you get to do this? You are the Joe Rogan of nursing podcasts, and you know it. Look at that face. She knows.
Don't you forget.
She knows. I love it. You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
I'm trying.
I'm telling you. Anyway, you need to bring it in a way. You should never apologize for sure. I had my CFRN calendar years before I was eligible to apply for a flight nursing job, according to the regulations laid out by various bodies, which since it's uncensored and since I'm kind of acting a fool, maybe I won't say as many acronyms as I normally would because I just don't want to go that way. But it makes it more fun because I can talk more smack. So you're going to get torn apart, and you have to minimum of 3 years. So like I said, 12, 24, 36 months. I enrolled in a BSN program out the gate. Actually, I took a year off and got a couple certs. And then I rolled in a fast 18-month. I don't know what school I went to, but, evidently I'm a rising from the ashes sort of person. But no names, no, whatever. But I did it online. I'm here in San Diego, California, and it's all in the book. I mean, I hate shameless plugs. If there's anything I disrespect about a person, it's when they're on a podcast. And, Adrian, people are trying to be serious, and, they just don't appreciate the fact that someone may be making
Oh, it's not going to show my phone, but I even have it right here. Look.
That was so funny. When you tapped it, it went to the background.
Into the universe.
You entered my book into the universe. That was really I love your backdrop, by the way. That's epic. That's epic.
Thank you. Ordinarily, I have my logo and arms that appear on screen right about here, but new computer, haven't got it all worked out yet.
Honestly, I think this works. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Neil deGrasse Tyson emails you next week.
That's what I was hoping. So so the certification, while I was reading the book and reading about certifications and this process that you went on, you had your goal set and you were just going to bust ass to get to that point. It made me go, maybe I should think about getting a certification. I've been thinking about it for a while, but I haven't done it yet. So it got me thinking. I caught myself making excuses to you as I was reading.
This is Kool-Aid, by the way.
Oh, don't drink the Kool-Aid, man.
I'm telling you, drink the Kool-Aid. It's fucking delicious.
So part of me was kind of like, oh shit. I felt motivated, and then I felt a little bit ashamed, and then I felt motivated again.
No.
And then, no. But here's the thing. I'm not taking that away. I'm not walking away going, God, this guy made me feel like shit. I'm walking away going, he made me think, why haven't I? Oh, because I'm scared. Oh, because I'm scared I won't pass. Oh, because I'm scared that it'll make me feel like I don't know as much as I think I do. But that's not what you're after here.
That's not. And ironically, I live between 2 trauma centers in an undisclosed location in San Diego, California. And I just literally heard a helicopter, probably from one of my companies, flying over. I just, all of a sudden I was just like, I wonder if that'll pick up on the sound.
I didn't hear it, but God.
Okay. All right. Anyway, that happens all the time here, but
we would say same where I live.
Love it. Hey, Adrian, you bring up a good point. Excuse me. Overkill is underrated. Mm-hmm. It's not original. It's from the A-Team movie. Mr. T, okay, all that.
But
Overkill is underrated. I have always had this philosophy. Maybe it's my love of jiu-jitsu, and I'm a big fight fan, and Chael Sonnen, Conor McGregor, all these famous smack talkers that just get everything out of life. Ronda Rousey above all else. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God,
these
Ronda.
amazing humans that just smack talk, and they say, listen, it's about me, and you're going to do what I think is right. And people follow that. People love that. There's a downside to that, though, where if you're already established, and Adrianne, you're a young, youthful, amazing, inspiring nurse to so many places.
Thank you.
And certifications, I truly don't. It depends on where you want to go. Mm-hmm. If people want to fly, it's very important that you get invited to the flight interview, because it's a different kind of interview. It's a, everyone up against the wall, kind of they tear you limb from limb, ask you questions, run through scenarios. And if you don't have that experience, it's very intimidating and trying. And you need to show up with the baddest resume in the room, and without apology. I had my CFRN, as I think I mentioned, 2 years before I ever was eligible for my first flight job. So I created a resume in 3 years. Like I said, it was my plan. I had my bachelor's and 5 of my 7 post-nominal certifications by the end of that 3-year period. And so I was eligible at the 3-year mark. I like to say I was eligible in September, hired in October, and I started flying in November. Because if you have this resume that is unimpeachable, they're inviting you to that interview. You may not get the job. You might be a complete jerk who doesn't deserve to be there. Your personality will shine through, and they're going to rake you across the coals very aggressively and make sure you know what you're talking about. But you need to show up. Like, if you create a resume that is so, is this the Nursing Uncensored podcast? You need to have a pornographically straightforward, oh my God, I can't believe this is real resume, so that they will invite you, because they will look bad if they don't invite you. You're like, oh my goodness, this person has so much behind their name. If they don't say, hey, we need to at least invite them here, just so we can say we did, because that's the goal. You need to be so amazing on paper that they have to have you in the room. That doesn't mean you get the job. You might be a jerk. You might be a total POS. If you don't know how to humble that, that's not job interview. That ain't what you bring to the job interview. You bring, yes, namaste. That's what you bring into the interview. But you need to truly show up with something spectacular, and that's going to get you invited. And trust me, I have failed and failed and failed at exams and interviews, and I've been kicked in the teeth so many times, but I keep going back. Like, I'm going to show up, and I'm going to tell you what I think about what I think. And sooner or later, I'm getting there. Now, that doesn't mean I have it all written out, but essentially, whenever somebody asks me about these sorts of things, like, oh, you're a flight nurse? Oh, let's talk. I'm like, there's a reason I wrote the book, not to keep going back to it. But I tell everybody, the first 2 chapters are essentially the first 10 to 15 minutes that I've had with everyone who's wanted to pull me aside and talk for years now. I put it in the first couple chapters.
Yeah, and it's easy to digest, easy to devour.
Oh, I'm not an intelligent speaker. I'm not an overly educated writer. I listen to Richard Dawkins. I listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson, Christopher Hitchens. These are Sam Harris. These are my heroes. But my goodness, I'm not a very talented writer. I just love to dive in and be real. And so it's 164 pages, double spaced. I literally wrote it for EMTs and nurses that are reading on the night shift in low light, or maybe sitting in a parking lot. Like, you can read it, you can absorb it. And don't get me wrong, we do get into some high level stuff, And there's definitely some opinions that are controversial, and I've definitely set myself up to, take a couple punches along the way. But I spent 20 years of medicine in my life, from an explorer to a corpsman to an LVN to an RN to a flight nurse to everything else, compiling the information that is in this book. And I wouldn't have done that. Like, I have an alter ego for other parts of my life that we won't get into. I skydive, I play guitar, I'm in bands, I do all that other stuff, but that's under an alter ego that doesn't have anything to do with today. I published this under my own name, under my own license, with everything. That's the first thing I've ever done creatively in my life that was come at yourself.
Me, bro. Yeah. Like,
and
this
so
is,
it had to be good.
This is your truth.
And so I'm not a genius. I'm a bachelor's level RN, and I got that after I did my associates. I was a dumb kid I dropped out of high school, got my GED, did a few college credits, so I get rid of the GED, and then the Navy took me, and then I was a corpsman, and did all that stuff. And I mean, I'm from Appalachia. I grew up in a log cabin in East Tennessee to fundamental young Earth creationist parents. And,
very far from where you sit.
Yeah, we don't have to go there today. That'll be part of our political podcast. But you get what I'm saying, people.
But the book, here's what I like about your writing style. I like lists. I like bullet points. It's true. I like to be able to, if I didn't read this at work, but this is something that if I had some, I don't know what downtime at work is like. Like, I get that once in a blue moon. But I do like that. About? Yeah. But I do like that you can read. I mean, like I kind of told you off before we started recording. I immediately went to the chapter about ketamine. I was like, well, I could go in order, but fuck it, I want to see what he has to say about ketamine. Yes. So we'll get to that. But the point I'm making is that this book, even though it is not written as a great piece of literature, it's actually. It does what it's supposed to do, and I enjoyed reading it. You do have some strong opinions, as do I, but there were things here that, like, I took to that I see that's absolute. Some of it is very high level. Some of it I did have to look up, or at least sit on it for a minute and be like, okay, what is this likely to be an anagram for, or an acronym for? But there are some things, like, for example, I'm looking at a page I took a screenshot of. I'm a respiratory step-down nurse. So we have patients that are ventilated. We don't do ET tubes, but we have like trach to vent. We have vents, and you have a list of, like, your strategy. If you're having trouble, you've got the DOPE mnemonic for vent troubleshooting. Is the tube where it's supposed to be? Is there something in the tube that's not supposed to be? So dislodged tube, obstruction, pneumothorax, or equipment. This is like what I've had to train my brain to just automatically click through. Like, this is the reactionary. But I like that. I just like that you break things down in ways that are digestible. So I read this book, like, honestly, I'm going to be super honest here, because I'm a fast reader anyway. So I had confidence that I could do it. But I read this book at like 3:00 this morning over the course of like maybe a couple hours.
Yeah.
Not only because it's so easy to digest, but because I felt propelled along to learn more, because you do some crazy ass shit at your job. And I think that's why it makes so much sense that this interview that you get invited to, this calling, being a flight paramedic or a flight nurse or whatever the credentials are, there's no room for fucking around. There's no room. I think you say at one point, like, you can't do this while you're in a dark closet flying through the sky, which is
absolutely, yeah. It's in a, sorry, yeah. People hold. You've ever been to ACLS, PALS, NRP, PHDL, any of these? Yeah, they show you these videos where the sterile environment doctor says, "Do this right, hand me that, do that next." Mm-hmm. That's a coordinated effort with a group of people in a calm room. Truly, myself and another nurse, or myself and another paramedic, are going through some of the most advanced algorithms with a pharmacy with hundreds of drugs in it, medications in it.
Sure.
That, yeah, I know. the protocols are insane. The capabilities are insane. And we're doing it literally in a flying closet based on the helicopter design. It might be literally a closet or the world's smallest dorm room.
Well, like
size.
an ambulance rig is bigger, right? Than what?
Oh,
than
yes.
Like way
there
bigger.
Are very few ambulances that are going to be smaller than the average helicopter. I mean, we're literally doing this in jujitsu positions, and it gets very, very. And this is assuming you know what you're doing and how to do everything right. Yeah, I've literally helped hold my partner's leg up against the ceiling so he could brace while he went for an angle that would allow him to perform a weird procedure on the opposite side of the patient. In the middle of the night, after we've already patched a couple of bullet holes and are doing
it's intense.
It gets real. I mean, it gets very real.
Which is why I like that you point out that, like, you have to walk in with the resume that fucking stands up on its own, but you also can't, like, in your list of flight nurse commandments, number 1 is be nice. Number 12 is be nice. Because you know what? There's no room for an asshole in an emergency.
And trust me, I have been one many times. And I have been, I mean, there's a reason that I put it in there twice. It's number 1 to be comical, but it's also to drive home the one single point. One of my father's greatest heroes was a guy named Randolph Mantooth, who was the leading actor. Yeah, he's an older gentleman, distinguished gentleman now, but he was the Johnny Gage paramedic character from the TV show Emergency back in the 80s that taught the United States about emergency medicine. And it just so happens my father looks identical to him. He's a
nice.
So my father, I think that's why my father is a paramedic. He's like, I look like Johnny Gage. Anyway, I mean, good looking son of a gun. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Nursing Uncensored. Good looking son of a bitch. It's so fun. When can you do this? I love this. Oh my goodness. It's like the gloves are off.
So it's important, because we've all been in that, or most of us have been in that code situation where the doctor running the code is a total fucking dick. And you're like, look, dude, I just need you to call out orders. Like, I need you to help me out with this, but I don't need you to run my ass through the ringer just because you think you're hot shit. Like, that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the patient.
There is a delicate art to shutting down physicians. And to be honest, the better you are at being a nurse that knows what they're doing, the earlier on they're going to, there's times I walk into a room with a new physician who has no idea who I am. And this is in an ER role, not a flight nurse role, but in an ER role, which I still do as well. Love ER nursing. I'm ER nurse by trade and a transport nurse by trade. But if they know that you are calm and respectful, I'm a military guy, so it's always, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Show the respect. Absolutely. You got to play the game. Just smile, nod. Robert Downey Jr. has a quote, which I love, and it just says, and I can say this on the Uncensored podcast. It's a beautiful picture of him smoking a cigarette, which we'll get back to in a minute because you and I share something special about cigarette smoking. But Robert Downey Jr., it's a picture of him with a cigarette. He goes, smile, nod, agree, and then do whatever the fuck you were going to do anyway. Couldn't agree more. But just make the physicians happy, because nurse versus physician, you're going to lose every single time. So don't pick that fight. Take it, just take it on the chin. Don't be too proud. They went to school for a very, very long time to be very good at what they do. They might be complete assholes. That's not really any of your business, and that's not your problem. You have to deal with that if you want to stay employed. So just smile, nod. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And then when you do have, I am very lucky that I am on a unit that our staff physicians are amazing. And they're by and large not assholes.
You are lucky.
I'm very lucky. But we I'm on and I've talked about this before. I'm on a unit that's unlike other units. Like it's a very special, like we actually all kind of like each other. Like it's a weird kind of anomaly, but it's nice when you have liar. No, this is why I don't fucking go anywhere else. It's good right now. Even when our patient load sucks and our acuity is that of an intensive care unit, even though we're not a fucking intensive care unit.
Right.
But I guess the point I'm making is that when you're involved in a code, I've seen many. I've never been primary nurse for a code. I've done rapid responses. I like to catch shit early. I want to catch that shit before it's a code.
The best nurses do.
Yeah. But the point is that when you have physicians, nurses, support staff, respiratory therapists that all get along, shit goes faster. It goes smoother. I'm lucky that I know what my strengths are of each of my team members. Like I know who's the bomb at the IVs. I know who's bomb at getting that fucking airway, like protected. So you get to learn these people, their personalities and their strengths, which is nice. But the difference between having a bunch of people that are shitty to each other and then people that work well, the difference in the shit you can achieve is immeasurable. And so, yeah, you do have to deal with the guy who's being an asshole and maybe not talking to you like you prefer to be talked to. But you know what? In an emergency, you fucking do the thing that needs to be done to stabilize the patient, and then you figure out the social aspect later. If it's something that needs to be addressed where someone talked to you really, really inappropriately, I'm not saying suck it up and move on, but I'm saying in that emergency, getting mad is not going to make you a better critical thinker, right?
Absolutely not. No, we are almost as RNs obligated to bring an element of class to the table that some of my greatest personal friends are physicians. And occasionally they'll condescendingly be like, so you're thinking about being a doctor? And I'm just like, oh, I might be bringing a new thing to the table for the Uncensored Nursing Podcast. But my life's goal and journey has been to become the best RN possible. So when I'm resolving conflicts with physicians, you have to decide, are they going for your throat or are they just trying to make themselves seem more powerful in the room? And if they're going for your throat, okay, maybe a defensive stance is necessary, chin down, hands up. Most of the time, they just want to be heard and they want to be respected and they want to be shown what they are due, which is respect for their knowledge. That being said, and I love the ACLS videos, PALS videos, these new American Heart Association videos that we all watch when we go to these classes. They really break down the forced humility of the physician in the room. You can tell the actor playing the physician in the room on these videos just wants to be like, really? Like, really? I would be doing that? No, that's not how it's like. It's blah, 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 blah. And people are losing their freaking minds.
You're not like, I just gave a 500 cc bolus and now I am beginning a second peripheral IV. No, it's definitely more chaotic than that. But it doesn't, but the thing is that when I early on in my career was doing like simulations, we do a lot of code simulations, make that muscle memory, make that reactionary memory of the right thing to do. But also there have been times where like I feel panicked because it's a code, it's exciting, the adrenaline, whatever. But really, like the best codes are calm. Maybe not flight codes, but at least at the bedside. If the best ones, hopefully, and again, I don't work trauma, so I'm not talking about, I'm talking about like when we just have people that are like hemodynamically unstable or whatever the case may be. Different. God, I really want to jump into talking about some things, but I want to make sure have we fully introduced you? Like this is
like I said, we were talking earlier about heaven, non-existent heaven, whatever you believe in. Goodness forbid that I launch into plugging Joe Rogan or Sam Harris or any of these people that go this long-winded 3-hour podcast. But when I first talked with Adrianne today, this is for the fans and the listeners in attendance, pleased to meet you. I said, hey, let's do this. Like, what's your record for time? I want to beat it. Like, let's go for it. And we'll hopefully if I'm blessed.
My record, I try to keep my episodes max at 120 minutes because I find that people just click away after that. But in terms of recording, my record is 4 hours. Anyway, okay, so here I want to so we know who you are, we know what your kind of credentials are, what your experience is. I want to talk about some things that are specifically in this book because and they kind of fall in different categories, but I just want to take us through a few things.
And for those of you listening, not watching, I've been rather tongue-in-cheek holding up the book in various funny poses for the duration of this podcast, but it's called The Flight Nurse Bible, a field guide to awesomeness, and it has all my professional stuff underneath it, which makes it known to be this is a professional medical
and a really sweet ass photo of a helicopter in front of a reddish.
I love that you said that. I did take the picture, which if you're on my LinkedIn page, which is truly the only true social media site I commit to because it takes away the haters, it takes away the trolls. It's all professional all the time. And that's what I enjoy doing. I also have a mild YouTube presence and following people like Adrianne and her model and so many other greats. I'm going to try to branch out more, but it's a clean book. It's a good book. I wrote it so that college professors or EMS instructors, nursing instructors can recommend it to their students without getting in trouble. It's a clean, I'm not a clean dude. I have a lot of thoughts about a lot of things, but this book truly is clean and it's fun to read. This is not a textbook. This is not a research paper. This is a dude
but it has
says, what up?
And a lot of great information. I keep saying that, but it is really true. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and these are I have random screenshots on my phone that I took from the PDF that you sent me. And there was a lot I wanted to talk about, but I tried to kind of narrow it down. So let's see. And I just screenshotted these. So I have to kind of figure out with each one why I took the screenshot again. Okay. So this is page 28, I think. And you talk about studying for an exam and you talk about a strategy, and I'm all about bringing value to my listeners. So this strategy actually is something that I did, although I hadn't at the time I started doing it. I didn't realize I was doing it for this reason. But you talk about how when you're going through questions or flashcards, instead of reading the question and making your guess, which might be wrong, and then reinforce shit that's not correct, go straight for the answer, the rationales, look at what they're looking for. It says, you're right, this is way better than wasting brain power, taking practice tests, looking at wrong answers, guessing, being wrong, getting frustrated, and being totally counterproductive in what you're studying. So I read that and I thought, fucking yes, applicable to every exam, every student that needs to prepare for a certification, NCLEX, whatever. Read that shit. Read the right shit first.
Absolutely. And I should point out, no, by all means, when I went to go publish, I ran through my father, of course. I ran through Miss Jenny, who's my life partner, beautiful, wonderful career flight nurse, paramedic, ER nurse, direct. She my girl.
Nice.
Yeah, and I won't say his name, although I've listened to enough of your podcasts to maybe know his name. And you got your blank.
I got Bay.
There you go. And we all have that person that drives us and makes us who we are. But when I got into this, I said, what do y'all think? I took notes from everybody. Then I said, do you think this is a book that needs to be written? Or am I just doing this for my ego? And everyone was like, I think it's pretty good, man. Like,
write the book.
And so I said, fuck it. Let's do it, come what may. And I love that you said that, because so many people have approached me with emails and whatever not. They're like, you saved me dozens of hours in my study process with this advice. Go buy one thing, and not just the book. Forget the book. But what's good about it, if you only buy it, don't listen to my words. It has a very, very, very involved recommendation book section in the back for everybody who's anybody. I don't know, the glare kind of got you there. Anybody who's anybody.
The effect is good.
There's maybe 100 book references for the most elite nurses, paramedics, and practitioners in our field that have written things far more advanced than I have the attention span to. So my book was a bunch of practical advice from some dude who's been around a bit. And then I plug you, like we go to the ventilation section of the book and I say, I'm turfing you to these guys because that's not me. I'm not, I could do it if I had to. I just want to give fun advice and do it on my own terms. But these gentlemen and ladies have done it in such epic ways. Buy their books, read their books, become the genius that these people are. So I'm not trying to come at this from any sort of higher than thou perspective. Sorry, I'm rambling, but to get to your point.
No, but I see what you're saying. It's absolutely true. Like I say this over and over again. It doesn't matter whether you've been a nurse for a day or 100 years. You have something valuable to bring. You have a perspective. You have experiences. You have quite a lot of experiences. So I don't think it's great that you've amassed this list of resources because it is true. Like I don't do the pathophysiology medication. Like I don't do that kind of shit because I want to be able to discuss things that are more subjective and don't require citations. So I get that, but you back it up with a lot of really great resources. So yeah, that was the first thing that I saw that I was like, damn, that I didn't even realize I was doing it at the time, but that's my study method. And when I tutor, which I don't do very often, that's kind of what I encourage people to do. Fuck guessing the wrong answer 100 times.
Absolutely. And not
especially
only that,
if you're frustrated, like that's not going to help.
No. And in addition to this, there's an obvious couple of names I could mention where I'm like, do not buy that book. I don't want to get sued. I don't want to get Adrian sued, so we're not going to do that. Let me tell you the books you should be buying. First of all, they're all listed in my book, but there's not a single book listed in there that I haven't used or loved to death and reread and get all this. But any book that tries to teach you everything you already learned and then says, guaranteed to pass if you do our program. Not what we're looking for. I need questions, answers, rationales.
Yeah.
That's all I need. And it has a respiratory chapter with 100 questions. Go to the end, and it just has the answers and the rationales. When you buy a book like this, and there are many, all referenced, only read the rationale sections first. Why would you go frustrating yourself intentionally, not knowing what you're doing, failing these? You're not going to pass them. You have no idea. I mean, they make these tests. Ooh, I almost said something I don't want to say. They make these tests challenging. Uncensored or not, I didn't want to say what I was about to say. They make these tests challenging. And they need to be challenging because life is challenging. And very early on in the book, when I'm talking about preparing for these certification exams, I say, you think these are difficult? If you are lucky, in a few months, you're going to be working, intubating a child on the side of the road in the dark, 30 hours and 4 calls into a 24-hour shift. And you have to flawlessly perform these crazy advanced algorithms.
While people are watching.
And while people are dying.
Yeah.
And what stands between that? I mean, there is no added trauma to this situation. But back to the fun stuff about testing. I always read the question. I've actually chopped.
Chop the book.
I chopped them. I have these little folders I buy, like at the dollar store or wherever, and I rearrange the books the way I want them. And I have all the questions on one end, then I have all the rationales on the other, or you could just do it with Sharpies and however you want to do it. But I always read the question and answer sections first because they're telling you everything you need to know and why, and the rationales behind it. That's what you need to know. And then once you understand the core knowledge, then waste your brain power, because frustration is a crippler. Frustration will make you doubt your basic abilities for success, and that will cripple you. And you have to avoid that. Now, don't get me wrong. I also very clearly say, okay, when it's 2, 3, 4 weeks out from exam time, oh no, it's time to test. Like, because these exams are a couple hundred questions, 180, 160, 140. You're going to get your teeth kicked in for 2 or 3 hours, taking very high level tests, and maybe a bathroom break, maybe not. You have to check in, you have to check out, fingerprints.
Right,
They have a male person patting down the men. They have a female person patting down the females. And you have to turn in your ID. You have to clock in and out. Like, there's so
it's a process.
Yeah, and they have you on IR as well, so they can locate devices on your body. Like, trust me, it's maybe not IR, but whatever the term is, where they can pick up signals on your body. Like, it is so advanced. You're not gonna be able to cheat. I've never attempted to. I've always been so terrified. But
yeah, they make it impossible.
Yeah, and someone once told me, "Oh, well, I like to data dump because they give you a piece of paper and a pen, and so I just like to keep it in my mind, and then I go in and I just data dump all the crazy stuff." I'm like, that may have worked 10 years ago when it was like, oh, walk in and sit down and here, this ain't the number 2 pencil for SATs. Yes. I realize I just dated myself. It's all.
Hey, I did same pencil.
Yeah, I know. But no, it ain't like that. It's hardcore. And so by the time you get from putting your stuff in the locker to sitting at the computer taking the exam, it's been 35 minutes. Anything you were going to scribble down and write quickly, that's gone, man.
Gone.
You need to know. And you're also cheating it by trying to do that. And so don't waste brain power. The first few weeks you're testing for an exam, just know what they want you to know. And they'll tell you online. And the percentages are available. I also say in the book, cardio, respiratory, multi-system, hemodynamics. I mean, they are really making sure you know how to keep people alive. Yeah, we have balloon pump questions, a few. Yeah, we have toxicology questions, a few. You're going to know those. That stuff you're going to be okay with. You really just need to focus on the high power areas of cardio, respiratory, and hemodynamic everything. And that's one of the tips in the book we discussed.
Yeah, because you're getting them to a center that can actually, you're the, oh shit, patch them up, get them somewhere we can fix them up a little bit more long term. So, I mean, it's no joke. And
then here's another important one that I like to talk about. And if there was ever anything appropriate for Nursing Uncensored, it's this. Now, granted, and I have a whole new love and respect for your success, Adrianne, after listening to, so many of you're so humble about the way you got started and the strife and struggle you went through to become who you are. And like, you literally started crying on one of your own
I'm
podcasts.
Kind of there, almost there now.
You laid it all out, and that's just not many people do that. And that was beautiful. And I was like, I gotta.
I'm tough.
But I just said a bunch of nothing, but
I'm blushing.
Oh shucks. What I tell people is, you got to just attack these tests. Maybe you're afraid, maybe you're not. This is particularly relevant for the nurses that have been in a field. Say you're an ER nurse of 15 years, 20 years, 10 years, 4 years, whatever, and you're in a charge nurse position. People look up to you. And we're in the age of certification now. We weren't before, and now we are. So you're going to have underlings coming up at you with more certs than you. And you're going to be like, oh, whatever. You might be that person. Don't be that person. But you're in a quandary, because if you let the world know, I'm going for my CEN exam, and then you bomb it, you're humiliated. And you're not going to put yourself through that just for the simple risk that you might fail. So I have a very easy solution for this. Lie.
Yeah.
Lie.
And you know something? That's true. The first student I tutored as an RN, because I did some stuff when I was in school, but as an RN, I took on a student, and she was getting mad shit from her parents. And she had to travel back to her hometown to take the exam. And I said, do you have someone you can stay with that doesn't know your parents? Not tell them. And then, because it's way better to call them and tell them that you passed than to have them texting you hours before the test going, are you ready? Did you do it? Yeah. No. Get off my ass. That's not how you pass.
That's right. And let me clarify real quick what I mean by lying. We're nurses. We're RNs. Honesty is key. Or we're paramedics, or we're CNAs, or we're MAs. Or if you're not listening to Nursing Uncensored podcast, you're really missing out, because you're going to get so much insight into the real world. And trust me, I've freaking been there.
You
and
have.
I'm hanging out with Adrianne because I know that she gets it. So when I say don't be a liar, no one has to know that you're lying. It's like you're not being dishonest.
You just don't need to put it on Facebook that you're taking your test Tuesday at 10 a.m. at this center and you expect to know the results by that afternoon. Like, don't.
Why
do
would
that. Don't.
Why would you do that?
Don't psych yourself out. Don't
just say, you know what? I'm going to take that test. I'm really excited about it. And it's great. And if you fail it, who cares? So I have another section where I talk about how you will carefully pass the exam if you do all these right things. And then I have a section where I say, or there's this other option, grip it and rip it. And, just study for 2 weeks, look at everything you can in your apps and your online, this, that, the other, and your Quizlet. No, I know it's illegal and we shouldn't be doing it, but I've never looked at Quizlet. I think they should fucking take that shit down.
I don't know
offensive.
what Quizlet is.
That's offensive to me. How dare they?
I've never seen that before.
Anyway.
All right.
Go and take it.
Yeah,
and
do it.
If you fail, you fail. If you pass, you show up with the CEN badge or whatever cert badge. If you fail it, then you just don't tell anybody. And it takes the psychology out of it. And you just say, you know what, I'm still studying. You know what, something happened with my brother-in-law's cousin, sister's dog's brother. And, I need to go back and do it again later. Or not yet. Or I'm not ready yet.
I'm thinking about it. I'm still prepping. Yeah. And then people leave you alone.
Yeah. And you suffer no psychological loss from that process.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, let's face it, when you consider yourself to be an expert and then you're tested in a way that you're not tested day to day,
mm-hmm.
it can be humiliating potentially.
And
people
I know,
psych themselves out.
And I know a lot of people that are really fucking brilliant, but they just don't test well. That's always an issue for people. You've got people that you say, hey, I could sit and I could lecture you on this topic. I could do the procedure. I can keep that patient safe. But if you give me 70 multiple choice questions about it, my heart shoots out of my chest and I can't think.
Or try 180.
Well, yeah. I mean,
multiple. I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
After you've been strip searched, pat it down, put every possession you have into a locker, then waded into a room, escorted into a seat, told you're looking at someone on a camera looking at you, much like a podcast, which is awfully fun. Except not in this case. And they're like, test, motherfucker. And you're like, oh.
Oh, you didn't know I had a written test at the end of this? Did you not get that email? Just kidding. Okay, folks, in the spirit of making this hefty conversation more digestible, click over to part 2 of 3 to hear us talk about things like narcotic accountability, real tales from the helicopter, the arousability threshold, self-care, and a crazy thing called tomahawk intubation. There's not a dull moment with my guest, author and flight nurse Robert P. Harris. Hurry back, and of course, happy nursing. Here at Nursing Uncensored, we may be, uncensored, but we're not unfiltered. Protected health information has been changed and concealed to comply with HIPAA. The things we talk about are from years of experience with thousands of patients, things we've read, stories we've heard. If you think we're talking about you, we're not. Also, we're real nurses here to provide helpful and accurate information But don't take anything we say as fact without doing your own research. Refer to your state's Board of Nursing, Practice Acts, and your institution's policies and procedures if you have questions about your practice. Lastly, our very strong opinions are ours alone and do not reflect those of our employers, educational, or professional institutions. Thanks for listening, and happy nursing, folks.